Hello, everyone. It's Jackie Martin with Be More Learning and another episode of Pop Up Positivity. So excited to have Leigh Ann Cannady. Leigh Ann Cannady is the owner of Forsyth Academy for the Performing Arts. And so excited to have you, Leigh Ann. So excited to talk to you because it's just, you have created such an amazing organization serving the students in our community. And so I just wanted you to tell your story, tell us a little bit about what it is, a little more about you and about what it is you do and how FAPA, Forsyth Academy for the Performing Arts, I love it, FAPA, even got started. Tell us a little bit.
Sure. So I grew up in Atlanta. I'm a rare Georgia native or Atlanta native and went to school here and had gone to college for music, had taught a couple years of public school, went to work for a nonprofit, did that for a little bit, and then started having kids and wanted to stay home with them, at least, in the short term. And so I was freelancing, doing a lot of music direction and working with different theaters around the area and students. And I loved it. And I had two little boys, and I went through a divorce and was sort of unsure of the future and what was going to happen next. So I started hustling to teach as many private voice and piano students in my basement as I possibly could. So I would sort of run downstairs and teach a voice lesson, and then run upstairs and fix dinner, and then run downstairs and teach another one, and then come upstairs and clean up dinner. And then I was building up a big clientele of private students. And the question that I was always asked was, where can my child go to take a drama class or do a show in our area? And my answer was always, well, there's not really a place that consistently does that. So that sort of started my brain. And from there, I remarried, and my husband at the time, or my now husband, said, well, what do you think? Do you think we can make a go of that? And I said, yeah, I really do. And so we always kind of tell the story. We were walking on the beach one day, we were on vacation, and we kind of had these two different options. I had a teaching job that I'd been offered at a school, and I had this idea and this dream, and he was the one who was braver than me, and he goes, I think we should do it. I think you should do it. And so we did. So in 2013 in August, we started with 35 kids. And now we have over 500 kids who see us every week, at least when we get to see them, every week. And we offer a huge slate of classes and productions and summer camps and all kinds of things to serve the kids in our area who not only love the performing arts, but just are interested in the connection that brings. I always say that it doesn't matter so much to me if kids decide that they want to do it for a career. What matters to me is that they're learning the soft skills that go into what it means to be a part of the performing arts. And sometimes that's on stage and sometimes that's off stage, but it always involves teamwork and empathy and connection. And so that's what we really emphasize, and that's what we focus on.
I love that. I don't know that I've even heard the whole story about how it got started.
A real bullet point short version.
I love it. I love it. Well, but I remember you and I met probably 5 years ago or so when you were you were in the as a finalist for the Chamber of Commerce's Business of the Year. And I remember meeting and hearing a little bit about that story and just really being impressed with the fact that you had grown so quickly and seemed to be able to put together that sort of business part of the equation and the creative part of the equation. And so, and what you just said about the fact that you also help to teach students a lot of life skills, really, some of those pieces. So how has that evolved over time to mesh that creative and business sense of yours and that whole life skills part of the creative process?
Yeah, I think, I crusade now with schools, particularly, colleges and universities, and how important it is for them to include some sense of business training in their arts majors, because most of us end up in some sort of form of self-employment. And when I now look back, I'm adopted, and so I just in the last couple years found my birth family on both sides. Um,
Congratulations.
yeah, and I learned that both sides are filled with engineer kind of brain sort of
Mm.
people, but also creatives. So I think that some of that is just like in my brain. I think it's part of my DNA. Um, and I didn't know when I started that I would enjoy the business side of it as much as I do. I didn't, I really set out to just teach because I thought that, I mean, that's what I've always been passionate about. But it turns out that I really like that back end stuff, and I don't mind a good spreadsheet. So I think that's been a huge part of it. I think to some extent that's in my DNA, being able to sort of bridge those gaps. But I also think that it's just I think part of that is the nature of building a good team around you. And I'm a real firm believer that, I don't have all the right answers, and the best idea in the room always wins. It's usually not mine. And so I feel like if you can surround yourself with people who kind of highlight the things that maybe I'm not the world's most creative person. I'm really not. And so I try to really surround myself with really creative, innovative people, because that speaks to sort of my, I don't want to say my weakness necessarily, but the thing that isn't my strongest suit. I'm really good at planning and creating a roadmap for how to I've always said that the thing that I think I am best at is putting legs under creative people's ideas. So that's what I try to do. I try to find really creative, visionary people. My team jokes because I get this text message all the time that says, "Hey, I've got an idea." And I go, "Okay, great. What is it?" And then, trying to figure out how we can put legs under that. So I think that's sort of where that all came from for me, has been some discipline. And, it's funny because people always say you should think about what, that there's some essence of you from when you were a kid, right? And what did you pretend you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were a kid? And I always was in music. I was always in dance. I was always in all those things, and I loved it. But when I was like pretending, I was pretending to own a business a lot.
Wow.
So I think there was something I think there's just always been sort of that entrepreneurial kind of spirit that I maybe didn't know that that's what it was until later in my life.
Well, how wonderful then that when that opportunity came along, your husband said, let's go for it. Because
Yeah.
I think that whole notion of you building a team around you might have started with him, yes?
Absolutely, 100% it did. Yeah, he's
Well,
still my right hand guy, and the one who I go to every night and say, "Okay, what do you think about this? Is this crazy?"
yeah, I have an
Right,
idea. Yeah.
exactly.
Well, and I love the fact that you recognize one of your gifts, and that is that putting feet under creative people's ideas. Wow. Okay, that needs to go on a billboard or something, because that's really a beautiful gift. And what a beautiful partnering of two things you love to do and be: creative and practical. And it sounds like you like to put the execution part of things
Yeah, I'm a
together.
systems person. Like I like building systems. I like thinking about even to down to when we're talking about how many kids we can get in and out of our building. We have a terrible parking lot at FAPA, and so we've tried all of these different ideas to how we can best execute getting kids in for their classes and out for their classes. So even thinking about the parking lot and how to best utilize the parking lot and systems for, I like that stuff.
It's problem solving, isn't it?
Yeah, totally it is.
So tell me how it is, that mindset and those thoughts. This is pop-up positivity. I mean, I think positivity isn't all just Pollyanna. Sometimes people use that word and they think that's all it is. But when you put feet to positivity, how does that show up at FAPA?
Well, I think for one thing, I can tend to worst case scenario things, sometimes to death, because it's how my brain works. My brain goes to, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then let's plan for that and back up from there. So that isn't very Pollyanna, and it's not, that's not necessarily the most overtly positive way of looking at something. But I think the backside of that is that it allows for really good planning. And then again, I think for me, so much of what positivity surrounds in what we do is the team that I have around me. It's really important to me that everybody that I hire comes at things with that sort of viewpoint. It's never like, that's a terrible idea, that would never work. It's always, okay, that's really out of the box. I wonder if we can figure out a way to make that work. So it's important for me to really feel surrounded by people who are positive. I am a way hard on myself overachiever type person. And so to keep my own brain out of the weeds, I have to really make sure that, I have a responsibility to my team to not go there in my own headspace. So I just have to take care of myself and then take care of them. And I think that there's a lot of positivity, especially in teams, that comes from always honoring everybody's ideas, even when they may be a little out of the box or they may seem a little crazy. I think there's a lot of synergy that comes from just going, okay, that's a little crazy. I wonder if we can do it.
Well, it sounds like you've built that as a culture. So if you're always open and saying, okay, that's a little crazy, how can we make it work? I think that invites creativity and invites people to think out of the box. So what a great culture you've built.
That's what we're trying to build. And that's what we want to build in the kids too. That's what we're trying to foster in them, is a sense of, like, just try it. It might not work, but be brave and try it. It's that's so much the culture of what the performing arts at their essence are about, is that spirit of, being creative and trying new things and putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. And so if we can build a safe space, it's my job as the leader to make a safe space for my staff so that my staff can make a safe place for our kids. So I feel like that trickles down. It's really important to me as a leader, that my team always does feel like they can come to me with whatever idea they have or whatever brainstorm they have. And then from there, that allows them the freedom to be creative and safe with their students, because that's what we want our kids to come out of this with. We want them to feel like they've had a place to be safe and to feel creatively free, and the ability to be vulnerable with their peers. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal, no matter how old you are.
Yes. And well, and at Be More Learning, we really are trying to help students with that, because we know performing, even standing up in front of a group and speaking, is the number one fear, and so if you, in the work that you're doing, are helping this next generation at least find those moments of courage in themselves, so that later in life, whatever they're facing, they can always look back and go, well, I did that when I was 12, or I stood up in front of the group and sang when I was, 16. What a great way to embed that.
Yeah, that's what's really important to us, far more than, we always say that we're process driven over product. So it's more important to me to see the journey that the kids have taken as opposed to the final destination, because the magic happens on the journey. Stuff will always go wrong when you throw 30 or 40 kids on stage at the same time. Like, that's never going to go as planned. Right. So, we want them to have a good experience. Obviously, we want their performances to be strong and to be a representation of the hard work that they've put in. But the real magic is what happens along the way.
So let's talk about adapting to what's happening along the way. How do you find right now in this environment, we've got this crazy situation we're all living through, what are you doing to keep yourself or your team or even your students positive and moving forward during this time?
Yeah, it's hard. I say I'm an overachiever, which is true. And I'm also a control freak, which is true. And I think the hardest thing about all of this is just how little control any of us have. And it's a scary time to lead an organization when you suddenly feel like the rug has been sort of pulled out and you're having to just sort of innovate on the fly. But again, I think that's been our secret sauce. I mean, we have kept most of our students, and we just pivoted as fast as we could, and we took all of our classes online, and that's again a testament to my team, who every single one of them went, okay, sure, sounds great, let's do that next week. I mean, there was just no hesitation, and everybody supported one another. And we have a private Facebook group where everybody, like, hey, this worked really well for me this week, this worked really great, I tried this, it didn't work, where everybody's sort of trying to help innovate. As far as staying positive, I think, we have really encouraged the kids. We've encouraged ourselves, again, to stay connected, because I think that's the thing that we all feel so disconcerted about, is just how disconnected we all suddenly feel. And for creative people, theater people, that's what we do. Like, our whole deal is being connected to people, to each other. And so we have as a team stayed very connected. We have a lot of funny group texts that go back and forth. But we've also encouraged that in our kids. We've just said, even if we're not making great strides in what we were trying to accomplish, we're making smaller steps towards an end goal than we might have done if we'd been in person. At least we're all connected, and you're seeing each other's faces, and you're getting to share the best thing that happened to you this week and the worst thing that happened to you this week. Or, the kids have loved showing us their pets and their stuffed animals, and, all those kinds of things that they wouldn't normally get to share in our in-person classes. So we've just tried to maintain connectivity. I think that's the most important element that kind of helps us get through this sort of thing, is each other.
Oh, I love that. And I love that in the spirit of the fact that part of the reason kids are even signed up to join FAPA and to be a part of it is in part to have that, connection with other students. So you're finding good ways to be able to maintain that. So I have one more question for you before we go. And I ask this of everybody now. A friend of mine had shared with me a philosophy that she has, which is, what if we look at things and ask ourselves, what if this could be better? I mean, what if it's better on the other side of it? And so I'm asking you, and all this stuff going on, and what you've got as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, and a team leader. So when you hear that phrase, what if it's better, what comes to mind?
I think that's so much of how we already operate, because I say often to myself and to my team, okay, let's throw out everything we did before, and what if we were starting from scratch? What would that look like? What are we doing that works really well and we would 100% keep, and what are we doing that maybe is not 100%, and maybe if we started from scratch again, we would get rid of that. So I feel like that's also something that I try to instill in our culture. And I think as it pertains to, our current situation, I feel like those of us who are owning businesses and trying to manage our families, I mean, I think there are things that are going to come out of this that maybe are better in the long term. I mean, I've seen my own kids having more fun together than they have during the normal school year when everybody's rushing to and from activities. I mean, they're playing together, and we're playing more games as a family, and we're having more meals together than we normally do. And those are things that I want to keep, when this is over. And then our team, we've found that we have an audience online that has found us. I mean, we've had people take class from us. Last week, we did a lot of free classes for spring break, and we had kids jump in from Colorado and North Carolina and all over the metro area, which was really cool. So I think that there's still an element of that we can keep, where there's kids that we can reach and kids that we can serve that are not in our immediate geographical area. So that's kind of, I think, how I'm approaching it, is maybe there are things and that helps me stay positive, because, this is really hard and scary. But thinking like, okay, what do we keep out of this? What's worked well, and what do we want to hang on to when life gets back to whatever normal is?
Yeah. I think that's really A great way to look at it all is to then maybe even between now and when you have to make those decisions, come up with some criteria by which you're going to decide that,
Yeah.
how are we going to know? But I love the fact that you were able, because of this, to reach people you weren't reaching before. How
Yeah.
cool is that?
It's been really cool. Very, very cool. And we're doing a lot of that into May too. We're sort of pivoting our classes where we're taking everything that we've been working on all year and we're sort of pushing pause. And then in May, we're calling it mayhem. We're just offering a million different fun opportunities to jump in and learn. It's pay what you can. So if you can pay a little bit, great. If you can't, that's okay. And we're gonna see how far we can reach that and how many kids we can get involved. Because I thought, how cool would it be to take a drama class with your cousin who lives in Oregon? But we can do that now. We can all be
Wow.
in a room together virtually. So we've got some really fun things coming up in May that are sort of piggybacking on that idea.
What a great idea. Well, tell everybody how they can get a hold of FAPA. Where would
Yeah,
they go?
absolutely. So we're online at forsythperforms.com. That's the easiest way to find us. We're located in downtown Cumming, right behind the fairgrounds. Once this is all said and done, we're able to get back in our building. And you can reach out to me anytime. My contact information is all over the website. I'm the one that you'll actually get a hold of if you email anybody. We'd love to hear from anybody who might be interested in jumping in with us. We've got classes running in May for all ages, all the way from our littlest ones all the way up through high school. So there's going to be something for everybody.
Leigh Ann, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing from your heart. Thank you so much for sharing, giving us a little peek up under the hood there at FAPA. And I love the fact that you shared so much about how you work alongside your team. In all transparency, my daughter works for Leigh Ann and absolutely loves it, and has just been singing your praises. And truly, I think this is where a leader gets to shine in times like these. Because it requires that you just bring up something new and different. And it sounds like you are rising to the challenge. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for being here, Leigh Ann. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. That's another episode of Pop-Up Positivity from Be More Learning. Please be sure to subscribe here. You'll have an opportunity to see all the different individuals, incredible leaders, and community members that we're having the chance to meet right here. Thank you so much. This is Jackie Martin with Pop-Up Positivity.